everybody. Welcome back. Once again, we are here with a Gen City Labs live session on LinkedIn and X and YouTube and wherever you might be consuming. My name is Mike Shaman. I am CEO of Gen City Labs. With me, as always, my stalwart companions, Eric Arvai, our head of partnerships, MK Granados, our head of marketing. And today, we have a very special guest. Please allow me to introduce Jon Selig, who does comedy writing for revenue teams. In the Gen City Labs universe, we are very well known for doing lots of crazy digital experiences, lots of innovative, interactive experiences that are eye-catching, that draw crowds, that bring attention to eyeballs. And one of the things that, occasionally we can lose sight of is that human element, right? That how are we actually ensuring that booth staffs are trained to engage people in unique ways? How are we innovating not just with cool displays, cool technology, things like that, but in other areas? And so that inspired us to seek out Jon and to bring him on for today's chat. So Jon Selig, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. First of all, appreciate it. It's great to be here. So my name is Jon Selig. I'm based in Montreal, Canada, and I am half sales guy, half stand-up comedian, and all parental disappointment. And to be clear, no, I did not play Ross and Monica's dad on Friends. I want to get that right out of the way. So my background is I was actually an enterprise tech sales guy for about 9 years when my career took the typical path of every career enterprise tech sales guy, and I started doing stand-up comedy instead of worrying about my customers. And I got very addicted to that process. I was a little bit disenfranchised with a career in sales. And I wanted to challenge myself. I did not get into comedy to be this full-time comedian who gets a Netflix special and, who spends all their life posting crowd work clips to TikTok. I just love the process of figuring out what elicits emotional reactions in people. What will help me as an individual connect with a whole room of people. And you learn the craft of short, quick joke writing. So that joke that I told you guys right up front that no, I did not play Ross and Monica's dad, that was my opening joke in stand-up comedy for about 11 years. And I got so tired of it. I was like, really, I need to find a new one. But it got people on my side within seconds because it showed that I know what they're thinking. And it sparks a conversation and I earn more time and attention. And I started comedy running for revenue teams about 7 years ago when I figured, you know what? There's so many parallels between sales and marketing and stand-up comedy. And I'd like to help more sellers and more marketers use the processes and methods and skills that stand-up comedians use to connect with their audiences so sellers and marketers can better connect with theirs.
I love what you just said about earn more time. Like that sticks out to me as a very powerful statement, because when you are engaging someone, especially on a trade show floor, it's hard to attract their attention, right? It's hard to engage them and saying, can I scan your badge is not an effective engagement. And earning their time needs to happen within about, 5 to 10 second window. And like I said in the intro, we typically try to do that with flashy technology and, experiential. Tell me a little bit about some of the more effective openers you have. Like, what is an effective icebreaker? Somebody's walking by, you think they might be a high value target. What else do you fire at them to be able to say, oh, that was funny. I'm gonna stop in my tracks and give this guy 10 or 15 seconds.
Before I even answer that question, can I give a little bit more context, which will give the question I can't answer that right now kind of flavor?
Yeah, please.
So I work with my clients in a number of ways. And one of the things I do, I deliver trainings and workshops to them. And I use the process of writing a short, quick joke that highlights a problem that the vendor can solve for their target persona. And the joke writing process forces them to really master what problem do we solve? Because there's so many sellers and marketers who cannot articulate that. What problem can we solve and for who? And also, how is that problem preventing them from achieving their objectives? What's that cost of an action? And there's all kinds of little impacts of not cost of inaction and impacts associated with not solving a problem. So I force them to unpack all of that, and I teach them a creative process. And the goal is to write a joke that the whole world will not get, but their prospects will. So, for example, like if you are selling planning and budgeting software, you might want to make a joke about how much it sucks to do your budget in spreadsheets that get swapped around the entire finance department without doing it in the cloud, which is the way people used to do it, and that's how dated I am on my the challenges that I'm aware of that some customers struggle with. So you're trying to show them that you really know them by roasting your prospect's pain. When I put clients through the workshop, sometimes breakout groups can write a great joke, but most of the time they can't. It's most people say, I never thought about writing a joke. And to be clear, like a joke to me is an opener, an icebreaker. It's not a rabbi, a priest, and a minister walk into a bar and say offensive things to each other. I use the word jokes a lot, but I just mean a one-liner, two-liner icebreaker that highlights your relevance to that audience. My clients then started to say to me, like, we could use these jokes and we need some better ones than the team writes. So I started doing it, and it's an offer called Humor as a Service, where I play consultant, I run deep dive, I understand what points do you want to press upon who, and I turn that into like 20 to 30 short ice-breaking bits of humor. So, it depends, to answer your question, it depends who am I and who's coming up to me? Who's like the demographic at the show? Who's the target persona? Is it a conference or trade show for chief financial officers, or is it for middle management operations managers? So every trade show is going to have a different audience, and we have to cater that ice-breaking humor to them. I don't do the generic thing. So when I'm walking the floor at a trade show, I will hit them with that. My name is Jon Selig. I'm half sales guy, half stand-up comedian, all parental disappointment. And I'll go, I'm not your prospect. So if at some point during this conversation, one comes over with 17 dump trucks full of money, you can violently push me away and I will not hold. But that's me as a sales guy going up to exhibitors trying to earn their time because they're there to talk to prospects. I'm not a prospect. But for example, like, I was at Exhibitor Live recently. Some people might be familiar with it. It's the most meta thing ever. It's a trade show for trade shows. So I wrote jokes to highlight the challenges that trade show exhibitors are struggling with, that field marketing and event marketing leadership is struggling with. So, for example, I wrote this one. If you're looking for quality swag, think of blue light glasses. They'll protect your booth staff's eyes from staring at their phones all day.
Nice.
And why did you now? So now I have a question. Why did you guys laugh at that?
Because booth staffs are typically wildly disappointing and not paying attention to what they should be doing or doing their jobs.
Funny because it's true, right?
Yeah.
And it's painful. And so if let's say you came up to my booth and I said, hey, do you want to hear a joke about trade show engagement strategies? What would your answer be?
Probably not. I'll pass.
Oh, well, then I'm just going to phone in and stare at my phone, literally. Put on those blue light glasses that my company has bought for everybody at the show. But is that your honest answer? If I were to say, hey, do you want to hear a joke about trade show?
I'd be open to it for sure.
Yeah.
You'd be like, all right, that's a weird question. What do you got? But if I tell you that joke and you laugh, my next question is, why are you laughing? And the idea of the joke is it's supposed to be a problem that you can solve for the people at that show. And if they laugh, it's either because it's a real problem now, it was a real problem in the past, or it's going to be a problem in the future. And if they don't laugh, let's face it, the joke is kind of like, well, we're thinking about different swag. Either way, it provokes a conversation. So
awesome.
if they're laughing and they want to talk to you, like I personally just want sales reps either using this humor. If they have me on the trade show floor, that's a possibility. I just want to hand them over to a sales rep who then goes like, why is that funny? Go have a conversation. And I think it qualifies the person you're talking to. Because if they can talk about that problem that you solve, they're part of some sort of broader, group of people you need to influence.
I mean, that's part of one of the core tenets of sales, right? People don't buy products. They buy from people they enjoy spending time with. They buy from people they trust. They buy, and so developing a rapport is really critically important and really hard to do, right? Frankly, on a trade show floor. So finding that common ground, coming at it from, an angle of humor, I love it. That's smart and certainly, potentially a very effective icebreaker, I think.
Yeah, I think about trade shows, you walk away thinking about the people you've met. And often that's the people that were on stage or speaking at you that the show has credited as thought leaders worth showcasing. And yet the exhibitors and the discovering solutions and things like that is a core part of being at a trade show and discovering new partners. So how you stand out in a sea of other exhibitors and actually become something that when people get home, they still fully remember, associate the brand with, are happy to take a follow-up call or email from. That makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, and we can write as many jokes as we want to highlight whatever points we want to whatever kind of audience. So at the end of the day, like wrote when I was going to Exhibitor Live, I wrote like a whack of trade show jokes just for people who are involved in the trade show space. And at the end of the day, you can flick on emotional switch after emotional switch with these people. And I think you said it best earlier when you said we want them to trust us. And I think you said it, but you didn't use the word like. We got to be liked before people trust us. That's controversial to some. I kind of believe that. Like I've heard some sort of sales, like LinkedIn personalities go, you don't need to be liked. You just need to be trusted. I'm like, that's true if you're dealing with really complex sales, but how often do we trust someone we don't like?
So in terms of like the process, it's so you had mentioned doing workshops. So can you kind of walk us through what that looks like? So you get hired by a company who is putting on a booth at a trade show, and they want you to train their staff. What does that look like? How long does it go, and kind of what's that process like?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I work with a lot of tech companies, and it's a bit of a younger, especially in the venture funded SaaS space, like software as a service. Young tech companies trying to scale. Like I was at a trade show a year and a half ago, and I mean everyone's is relatively young who's staffing these booths. They're that business development, sales development function very often. Maybe the vice president of sales or marketing is there. And I would just go up to the booth and I would just say to them, to this, I remember one kid in particular, probably his mid-20s. I said, hey, and I'd read the sign and like, it's some unpronounceable name, like Shmiza.ai or something like that. Like, I'm just like,
That's a great name.
I've never heard of you. And like, I would just say to this guy, can you tell me what problem I never heard of you. Can you tell me what problem, technical or business, that you solve and for who? And then he would just go, check it. We're an AI-driven engagement platform. We 10x your scalability. You want to see a demo? And I would say, like, you didn't answer my question. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I just asked, what problem do you solve? I didn't ask for a pitch full of buzzwords and like, I didn't ask for a demo. I'm not your prospect. Why would you waste your time with me? So the first thing we need to do, and I'm not saying that every industry suffers from this, but I think, look, most B2B sales is consultative in general. And we have to understand that we're in the business of solving problems for our clients versus selling them widgets. That's all they care about. They care about outcomes and what are the problems that are preventing them from achieving their desired outcome. So when I work with sales teams, we need to first understand, well, what problem are you solving and for who? Like, what's the so what? Who cares about your offering?
Mm-hmm.
So we unpack everything about the target persona. And again, let's say we're going to an HR technology trade show. Everyone on the trade show floor is going to be an HR practitioner, whether it's an analyst, a manager, a director, vice president. And they all struggle with things like retention, recruitment, learning and development, like, compensation, like whatever these challenges are that these HR people are struggling with. Like we as a vendor, we can solve not all, but 1, 2, 3, 4 problems for them. So I work with sales teams to help them better unpack how are they impacted by the problems you solve, and how is it preventing them from getting to where they want to go. Show them that that cost of inaction. Show them how various stakeholders are going to be impacted by not solving that problem. How does it affect both the target persona's emotions and their stakeholders' emotions, both inside the company and outside the company? So it's really like it's kind of sales training.
Mm-hmm.
And I use the joke writing process to facilitate that. Because everything I've just highlight are the pains, the challenges, and the things that frustrate both, in what ways do those pains and challenges frustrate target personas, their key stakeholders? And I get them once they kind of map out the correct knowledge, and I facilitate their pre-work, as I call it, which is questionnaire, where they have to share this subject matter expertise. There needs to be someone who really knows their stuff in each breakout group, so that the weaker ones, let's call it, I don't know if that's a politically correct term, but sort of the ones who are a little not great at articulating that subject matter expert and who do the pitches. They need to understand that they need to just be able to articulate what problem do we solve for who, how does it affect them, and how can we eliminate that problem for them, and how do we do it?
So aside from openers, right, which I think humor can certainly be a big opener, how do you layer it throughout a conversation or a client engagement? When in your workshops, do you get deeper about how meaningful humor can be in a human interact? Like, do you take it from a very esoteric level to a very here's how to send out a funny email, or are you very focused on that trade show interaction and optimizing just that moment in time where people, have somebody's attention and are trying to maximize their memorability?
So that joke I told you earlier about the blue light glasses, that can be adapted to 15 to 20 different touch points in communication. So no, it's what I do is not just for trade shows. I do have a client who crushed it at trade shows with jokes I wrote for them. That was the exact reason why they hired me, because they were selling something that was a little complex. It was a bit of a hard problem to explain. And he's right. Like when I try to explain the problem to people that I'm marketing to and explaining this use case, it takes me a long time to give them the context to the problem that these guys solved. But at the end of the day, I help them write these icebreakers. They use them to flick on conversation after conversation. In 2 months, they closed about 100K of net new revenue, and they were only 6 salespeople. Off of conversations started, and they closed another at trade shows with these jokes. And I think they took 2 of them. I wrote them like 20, 25 jokes. They took 2 that they liked, that they felt good with, that they felt comfortable with. And they used the rest of the jokes just to drive about 60K in revenue off of cold email. So to answer your question, you can write a joke to make any point to anybody at any point in the sales cycle. You can write a joke to address an objection, to shut it down. My clients never come to me for that. I do talk about, like when I speak to sales teams, I talk about humor's impacts on our prospects, like why we laugh at things, and like how humor's crafted. I'm leaving one thing out of my keynote, but it's not coming to me right now.
Sorry, I see a comment from the audience that says comedy is somebody else's tragedy. I love the quote, tragedy plus time equals comedy. Can't remember who said that. I would credit it. It was not me, but totally not wrong, right? It's funny because, but also to what John already said, like it's funny because it's true. Like those are the things.
So there's another expression I want to add to what you just said, which is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, making no adjustments and expecting different results. I have a slide that says In sales, comedy is tragedy that repeats itself over and over, where no one makes any adjustments. Because I do talk about the comedy equals tragedy plus time thing. You combine that with that other expression and you merge them, and that's how comedy in sales works. Like, I remember when I used to sell planning and budgeting software, and I'd call up a controller, I'd say, hey, like a lot of controllers and a lot of finance departments are really screwing up their budgets by swapping spreadsheets around. This is like 10 years ago or 12 years ago, guys. So like now we just have the cloud to do everything, to update everything real time. But there was a lot of data errors, and a lot of companies still use spreadsheets. You know, they swap them around and they're not using the cloud. And there's manual errors and data duplication and bad data in the final spreadsheet. And companies keep doing that. In 2024, they're still doing that. So why aren't they fixing it? Why are they putting up with this garbage, like, and this wasted time and energy and bad data? So that's a tragedy, and it's funny. Maybe not right now, though.
It's what I'm circling back to in my brain is thinking about theater and the first time you introduce characters and how much exposition there is. You need to drop an audience into the world of the play. And how do you do so without spelling out, it is Saturday afternoon and it is sunny and this person has just come back from baseball practice or whatever it is? You don't want to actually say it. And so it's a storytelling tactic to get the exposition across and give someone context. And I just think about the approaches you're taking are like giving a speed button to getting someone on your same page, contextualizing what you do. It's hand in hand with the storytelling and stuff that we try to do, but done from such a creative way.
Well, what's interesting is my pre-work that I put sales teams through. The questions I get them to answer mimic a before and after story. And, you know, storytelling without jokes is a really powerful way to engage your prospects, your customers. And then if they can write a great joke and they can learn how to tell a before and after story and layer in a little bit of humor, now you're talking real selling superpowers. The ability to get people to laugh, like you, to be engaging. Like, it's corny, I didn't make this up, but our brains are hardwired for stories. That's how we process things. So I think at every stage of a before and after story, like customer X was, in this business and they were struggling with this problem, was leading to these challenges, and try and insert a compelling event that made them say, we have to change. Like something came along one day and they went, we can't stay like this anymore. We got to get rid of the insanity or the tragedy, and why they spoke to your firm, and what did they go with? How did you resolve the problem for them? What were those benefits and outcomes? And if every seller can learn those things, and every marketer for that matter too, they're going to be much more potent and powerful when relating to their prospects.
So let me do a quick room reset. For those of you guys that might have joined us a few minutes late, talking about a little bit of a different concept than where we often go, but we are Gen City Labs. This is LinkedIn Live. You're watching us on LinkedIn or X or YouTube or wherever you're consuming this. We appreciate you guys. Our guest today, Jon Selig, who is with Comedy Writing for Sales Professionals. And honestly, taking us through some really, really fun stuff and some unique approaches to engagement and creating experiences that are going to resonate beyond, just a show floor interaction and beyond. So Jon, who's doing this really well out there? When you look at the brand landscape and you think about brands who use humor to engage, and this doesn't have to be an event or sales concept specifically, but who sticks out to you as, man, they're doing a really great job on a day-to-day basis? And then why do you think that is? When you break it down, what do you think is landing with some of the messaging that you're seeing out there?
I'm going to dodge the question, but I'm also going to answer it. So look, I spend a lot of time here on LinkedIn. Hi, LinkedIn. And a lot of my connections come from tech. Tech companies, for some reason, are like, they're super terrified of injecting humor. There's a company called Kentic. Oh, yeah. There's a company called Kentic that likes humor, actually. And they have some funny YouTube. They have some funny stuff that can be seen on YouTube. Those are sketches. Those are more like video ads. And I once put a post up on LinkedIn, like, what was your favorite ad of all time? and they all turned out to be funny ads. Like 22 out of 25 people that responded, it was a funny ad. And those are the ones we remember. But in my LinkedIn feed, there's lots of individual kind of, personalities who use humor quite a bit, like Corporate Bro. I don't know if anyone's heard of Corporate Bro. Yeah.
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. And like, he's nailing the tech world. It's like, he's just roasting it so hard. And it's so on point that he developed this massive following. And there's some other people out there doing sales and marketing kind of humor.
I love Ad Week, WEAK, Ad Week, and it's jokes about agencies and overworked copywriters and all of that stuff. I love it.
But you actually nailed it. Like, every industry has its own little culture and subculture to it, and they all complain and whine about the same stuff, and that's where the humor is. And it's not hard to make a list of that stuff and figure out how can we package that up and present that either as content, either as messaging that can be used in cold outreach, or on the trade show floor to just start and have better conversations with attendees.
I love oh, go ahead.
No, after you.
I was going to say, one of my favorite brands of humor is one that doesn't take itself too seriously. A little self-deprecation, I think, goes a long way. I think the most successful, like, SNL hosts always poke fun at themselves. Some brands that do that. And there's all these great stories of, I think, like, Steven Seagal was like he took himself way too seriously and wouldn't make fun of himself. And now is like the butt of so many jokes. So I guess my question then is, like, how do you kind of steer a brand to, when you're working with a brand or you're working with a company, how do you steer them to kind of not take themselves too seriously? Because I feel like that it does a good job of, breaking down some people's, barriers, and especially at a trade show where they're kind of, sometimes their guards are up and you need to break through the noise. So how would you steer them in that direction?
You asked me earlier, and I realized I didn't answer it. Like, how long are my workshops? They go from anywhere from 2 hours to 8 hours.
Okay.
And the longer the workshop is, the greater chance I have to get them to go, stop taking yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
Because part of what we need to do is we need to make ourselves vulnerable, get up there and deliver the jokes that, the sales and marketing teams that I work with, they have to get up there and deliver their jokes. I did a storytelling workshop actually with a client, and I said, you guys are going to assemble your story and tell it like yourselves, and then you're going to present it as if you're someone completely different, and you're going to have to map out who that someone completely different is, get inside their head, deliver it, and then you're going to come back and deliver it again. So I think people need to loosen up. None of this is life or death. Some people take themselves seriously. You're right. And I'm not going, if they take themselves so seriously that they can't let go and have fun while they're learning, then not every training or workshop is going to help everybody. And I don't expect to. I always think that, like, out of a group of 10, 20% of those people, 2 out of 10 people can be trained to deliver some humor injected into their talk track. They're like, I see that one little joke that you wrote, and I can appropriate that and use it. I can adopt it. And I still think that the process of going through the joke writing process and even failing at it makes you a little looser, and again, boost that subject matter expertise, so you can have the confidence, without even being funny, to have a more consultative discussion. So, like I mentioned earlier, all the inputs that I want them to insert into jokes, like impacts of not solving problems and who's affected, I don't care if anyone writes a great joke in my workshop. I can always write jokes for them if they want them for, let's say, the trade show floor, and train them on how to deliver them. But it's not for everybody, because, to your point, some people take themselves a little too seriously and might feel really corny going, hey, Eric, do you want to hear a joke about data integration in the cloud?
Yes, I do.
Now you're on the spot.
You got me.
That's just my favorite, like, go-to jumbled up, like, tech buzzwordy topic. So I don't really have one. I hope that answers the question. But I think self-deprecation's good, especially in that ice-breaking stage. Some people are naturally loose and funny, and I don't teach that. I don't teach improv. I don't teach people how to make fun of themselves. I'm using the humor writing process to help them become better salespeople and marketers, and think about their prospects, their audience, and how do we connect with them? How do we show them we got their backs? Self-deprecating, I think some people have that, some people don't. And I think the ones who have it will use it naturally. And I also preach don't use too much self-deprecation, because the more you do it, the more credibility you'll lose credibility over the course of the conversation.
Yeah, there's definitely a persona that some salespeople take on that they can't get rid of. That they are like they're not as organic, right? Not just as personable, not as natural. They can struggle to just have a normal human conversation with somebody. And typically, if you're self-deprecating, that kind of comes out in that mix. And I think that, joke telling and humor naturally kind of come out as part of that. I do love the industry-wide jokes as ones that are both relatable and icebreakers and putting people at ease. And I'll go back just because it was such the perfect way to open this, as you mentioned at the top, which is you need to earn people's time when you're interacting with them. Oftentimes you get a 30-minute meeting, you've earned some of that time, right? Not all of it, especially when you're presenting remotely. They're going to be flipping around on their computer or, go off camera, put you on mute, might not always be paying direct attention. Man, it's hard to get away when you're on a show floor. And it's very easy for somebody to give you 30 seconds. It is much less easy to have them give you 2 minutes, right? 3 minutes. And I am sure, and I don't know, John, if you use any metrics or analytics for length of engagement versus impact and how that ROI is eventually calculated, but man, I would imagine that it is very correlated, the amount of time that you spend with an individual on the show floor and the likelihood of closing a sale or even getting to that next level of taking a meeting.
Metrics are the bane of my existence, because we're living in a data-driven era where everyone wants to measure absolutely everything except the most important part, which is human connection and the way humans have conversations. I asked a call recording software, hey, you guys record people's cold calls and people's sales calls. Why don't we see what impact making your prospect laugh has on the length and quality of engagement of the call? They put out a blog saying that if you swear on the call, that they figured out how to correlate that to success. But I said, why don't we see what making your prospect laugh in a memorable way does? Silence. So people struggle to measure the impact of how do we make humans happier and make these connections with them. All I can tell you is that I've walked a bunch of trade show floors because tech has been a little bit down the last couple of years. So I've tried to go market myself to some other industries. And I told you guys, I hit them up with those 2 jokes right out of the gate. I'm half sales guy, half stand-up comedian, all parental disappointment. And I give them what I call an upfront contract that I'm not their prospect. And I make a joke about that. And I get them laughing like twice, maybe even 3 times in the first 30 seconds. And I get long conversations with them. And it leads me to booking meetings with them. And then saying, look, you're busy right now. You're not here to talk to me all day. Why don't we book a meeting and then we'll speak in 2 weeks' time? We'll go into greater depth if what I've said has interested you. So we're not using humor to close a deal. We're definitely using it to open and try and earn more of that time down the line, because when the joke is done right, it tells that story and it builds our credibility right out of the gate and makes us likable.
Awesome. Well, while we're on the subject of unique engagements, I think we're going to bring up another guest, Jenna Ovadia. Did I say that right, Jenna?
Sort of, kind of.
Oh, man, that means no. that means no. You screwed it up.
Okay, I think you did a great job. I'm proud of you.
Well, there we go. That's better. That's more like it.
Yeah.
Jenna, we've been talking a little bit about ways to uniquely engage audiences. John's been telling us a lot about comedy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you and your organization kind of operates in the event space?
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Ovadia. I work at CI Group. I've actually been at the company for almost 10 years now, which is crazy. I have lived my entire life and my career in the promo space. So really, truly pens, notebooks, pencils, kind of swaggy swag back in the day when that was like really a very cool thing to do. I used to work on, a lot of the 2-part mailers for Amex, and a lot of my clients, direct mail campaigns for ADP as well. And so that's kind of like throwing it back to like the corrugated box days, where things were really just full of crinkle paper that got all over your living room. Talk about a joke, and those kinds of cheesy engagements that seemed really great at the time, but then you kind of look back on what has happened, like kind of since like the industry has really kind of evolved, and you kind of do have to laugh about it a little bit. And so now really my main focus is specifically on building and growing this core team, which is focused on, engagement and really truly engagement around gifting, right? So it's basically like a mini event within an event. So gifting really, as we have known it all along, has just kind of been, typical like new hire kits and company stores and all of those things that kind of come along with, corporate gifting. And today 2 years ago, I always said like the industry was going to go in the on-site gifting direction, and it wasn't going to be Maui gyms. Fuck the Maui gyms. Everyone got to laugh. Fuck the Maui gyms. Sorry if there's anyone on this call that's from Maui gyms. I think they're wonderful sunglasses, but I happen to think that they are, a little bit overdone. So I think when I kind of saw like all these things that were happening on site, I saw it as an opportunity to travel, which I thought was awesome. B, I saw it as an opportunity for me to be able to service the clients that I was already servicing, just in a different way. And to learn kind of like a new skill set that I had not really known before. And I love live events. I think that they're engaging. They're I love everything about it. So I said, okay, how can we kind of like go in this direction? And so today, as it stands, we're basically building this kind of mini team that is responsible for, kind of curating a very selective, like retail kind of curation of items, I guess, for, really very like high end internal events. So SKOs, president's clubs, you name it, we've done it. And the beauty of what we're doing right now is that because of our background and experience with B2C clients, so like, some of our clients are, like Dunkin' and AT&T, and so we do a lot of work with them. And with the consumer side of the knowledge, we're now kind of bringing it to corporate. So we're saying like, you guys can do this too. Like you can be cool too, promise, like you got it. And we'll help you get there. So I think that like, that's kind of like how the business has really truly evolved. And I think it's really exciting. I think it's a really cool opportunity to be able to kind of push corporate in a direction that I don't think that they would ever have gone in, because they're just maybe afraid of it, or, they're going, okay, we're going to spend all of our event dollars on like the party. But really, truly, like when people leave an event, they feel like they remember the gift. They remember when they got that thing. And just because it's a thing doesn't mean like it could be something that's like a hat for $10 and you could do a whole patch bar and have it really be truly engaging in nature. And as long as it has that component to it, then all of a sudden it becomes a value of XXXXX. It's not just the gift in and of itself, which is sometimes like, a Tiffany bracelet for $200. Like anyone could go get that, right? These people have everything. So it's kind of curating those different experiences for the people that have everything, and kind of guiding them in a direction that they probably might not have gone before.
I love that. Go ahead.
Like, well, it's just like creating a story in the experience of getting it. It's sort of the reverse that we were talking about earlier of a brand telling their story. It's the brand giving their attendees a story to talk about. The patch station one I love because it is a personalization step and something worth telling your friends about when you get home from an event.
Yeah, I mean,
it's also. Oh no, go ahead, Jen.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it's a value exchange, right? And Jon, this gets back to your side as well, right? There is a value exchange happening, and value comes in many forms. Sometimes that comes in, on Jenna's side, it comes in a very overt gift that has meaning and value, not just in like a material value, but also like the intrinsic, these people were thinking about me, these people value me, they're giving me this thing, and that has meaning, right? On the other end of the spectrum, the more kind of ethereal value exchange, you've got Jon, and that value is my time is being well spent. Humor is valuable, right? Yeah,
Sure
feeling
is.
good is valuable.
Humor
So,
sells. Sure does. Sorry, I walk and I talk and I walk and I talk. That's just I can't sit in one spot.
don't worry,
But,
it's orienting goal.
What?
For once, Shaman isn't in his rocking chair.
Oh,
Usually
I'm in my
he's the
rocking
one.
chair. I am just sitting very patiently without
Oh my
actually
God, I
rocking.
can't. It gives me way too much anxiety. Like, no camera, no thank you. I just want to walk and talk and walk and talk. I make everyone so nauseous on my calls with them. They're like, Jenna, turn the fucking camera off. This is just too much
Oh,
for me.
Jenna, you and me, lady, we got to get on some calls together.
Yeah. But I think really truly at the core of it, like, great, I love this business. I'm passionate about it. I love shopping, which is really so fun. I'm the #1 Googler on the planet. So turns out that page 1 on Google is not so great, but page 65 is awesome when you get there. So that's what kind of separates the the cream from the crop, I guess, something like that. But I think that, I think passion, just period, end of story. Like, if you're passionate about something, like, I feel like you could do anything. And it comes off authentically, like, no matter what, it's natural. And I think that, if I think about like my career and how I've gotten to this spot right now, which is kind of like the jump off, I feel like, of my career, which is really fun and exciting. And I have lots of fun people in my life right now, like MK, who teaches me all about how to use ChatGPT. But I think that, like, it's an exciting time, but I think all my clients, and I think back of like how I got them. I mean, it was all natural. Like, it really was. They trusted me. They felt like I was telling them exactly, like, I was listening, I was hearing what they wanted to say, but I was also saying, okay, got it, hear you, but how about, have you thought about this in this way? And they're going, yeah, yes. And then all of a sudden, like, you start to go 2 years, 3 years down the line, and it's like, it's not even a sale anymore. It's just like, okay, Jenna, what should we do this year? Great, awesome. Like, next. And so it just
I would love to
evolved
hear,
from
like,
that.
who's doing it the most authentically? Like, when have you had a moment of, oh my God, this swag or gift plan perfectly mirrors a brand's values, style, voice, like, perfectly?
So I will say that I feel that the gifting that I've done has not necessarily, like, reflected the brand in and of itself, like in that way. I think it's more of like the warm hug, like, that they want to be able to express to, like, the attendees. So, like, for example, like, we work with Northwestern Mutual, and we do all of their gifting for their on-site, for their forum, for their top advisors. And I think, like, they had traditionally in the past, the most fun part about this is when I get a client that's like, oh, we did this year, and I'm like, oh my God, like, wait till you see this year, like, this is going to be insane, right? They're going to be mind blown. And so that's like a really fun, like, exchange. But I think the most fun part about this is when you actually get a client that repeats the next year. And we're going through it right now for, like, it's one of our first clients where we get to say, okay, this happened this year. This didn't go so well last year. This could have gone better. And then now that we really understand who the attendees are, which I think is extremely important, right? You get the same exact conversation every single time. It's half female, it's half male. They're all coming in on the flight manifest, and it's all spread out throughout the day. It's a lie, by the way. They all come in at the same time. They charge at you like the hyenas. Ooh, I'm on my that's what happens. And in reality, it's not like that. You got to be prepared, and you got to staff up, and you have to kind of hold your ground. And I'll just go back to say that always listen to, like, how you feel like you want the experience to go, because the thing is at the end of the day, you're responsible for what that looks like at the end. So if you think that there's not enough staff, or there's not something that you think that the client should have from the experience standpoint, that's on you. Like, and I think it's very important to make sure to communicate that to the client, because if they don't understand that, they think that they know what they're doing, which they do kind of sort of different, like totally different animal, is to just say like, this is my expertise. I am telling you that this happens this way, and I cannot let you go through with it this way. So just kind of being confident about that. And then, sorry, I'm going back to the other question, which was, sorry, bring me back. The first part of what I was saying. Sorry.
My question was sort of just about authenticity and alignment.
Right. Okay. So this is authentic. I have ADHD, and my name is Jenna, and I'm very creative, and I'm very fun to talk to, and I'm very focused most of the time. It just 4:47, and I think I might be losing it. But I think like just from an authentic standpoint, right, from the brand standpoint, is that this year, like now we get to really understand who the attendees are and give them the experience that we thought we might have known before, because based on these factoids that they give us, right? Like here's what it looks like. Here are the people. And, you know, it turns out they show up on site and it's like, okay, well, they brought their wives. The wives want something. The husbands want to give the wives something because the wives are going, why are you staying at work that long? And, you know, that's typically what happens every single time. So it just becomes like this, you know, this is what it is. And how do you actually address that from a gifting standpoint so that everyone feels like appreciated? You can't just think about like the winner, right? Just because it's 100% male doesn't mean that like it should all be gifts for, you know, for men. It should, they're coming with a companion, right? So like, I think that the thought should always be about like, what does this look like as a whole? And so I think then it kind of drives back to like, what is the experience? Like, and so for example, and I'm not going to give away what we're doing in October because it's amazing, and I'll share pictures at a later date, but it's kind of like we took exactly what we knew the attendees like felt like, what they looked like, what they wanted to feel and experience. We took a lot of their feedback actually from last year, and we just ramped it up. We put a lot more, you know, experience into the actual gifting. So it's, again, not just about the gifting. It's what's happening like in that moment. Like that's what they remember. They're getting the gift, but they don't want to leave and think, okay, I got the gift and I'm gone. They remember like what happened there when I got the gift. Did I, you know, play a game? Did I do something that was really cool and engaging? Or like what happened there? What did it look pretty? Did it feel pretty? It's not about just showing up with a table and a tablecloth. Like that is not what it's supposed to feel like.
And from an engagement strategy, the idea of earning something, right? Participation or play or anything like that, unlocking the gift automatically ups the ante a little bit in someone's buy-in. I mean, Shane and I don't know how many mini games and things you've had to build over the years for clients to make it so that there was some threshold of engagement you had to meet in order to earn your way or earn your reward with a brand. But they kind of go hand in hand.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I think that, you know, critically important is, and John mentioned this at the front, right? You got to qualify your people. And if you're sitting there spending 10 minutes with John, right, who's kind of reverse pitching you his own services, that no offense, but that's 10 minutes you're not spending with prospects, right? Mm-hmm. So that qualification, I think, is pretty critical, and having some gateway to of engagement before earning your reward is also, you know, an important element. So let's talk a little bit. I know we're winding down here. We've got about 10 minutes left. We appreciate everybody who's joined us for today's LinkedIn Live. Super unique for us to get out of the digital sphere for a week and talk a little bit more about humor and gifting and other things that, you know, other mechanisms to engage an audience and to create memorable experiences. I want to do a quick round robin. We do it every week, kind of a lightning round. I want to ask everybody, and John, I'm going to start with you. What gets you most excited about the future of events, and what do you see on the horizon that is a major opportunity, not just for you and your work, but for brands in general? And this is really focused on that live event space, live interaction. What about kind of the future of the event space gets you really excited?
I think, again, I'm not always around events. I go to enough. And I think we're moving away from this. We need to scan everyone's badge, get the entire list, blast everyone who attended, and like try and engage all of them, and start to engage those who want to engage with you. Whether it's, I know a lot of companies are focusing on like small dinners, let's say. Obviously, I believe in this human approach at a trade show. How do we give people a moment of joy at something that maybe they don't want to be at, and educate them around our value and why they should be talking to us? So I kind of think that I'm excited to see companies kind of like shake off some of I don't want to say the brainwash from the last few years, and stop worrying about the quantity and start worrying about the quality.
Love it. All right. MK.
Just one thing I want to say off
No,
of what
that's
you
all
just
right.
said
Go
is
for
that, you said something important, which is that, it's like kind of like less about the quality over the quantity, which I agree with. But I also think what's important to say is that, when you are, going to some kinds of like show or brands, and you're dealing with a brand, it's not necessarily about the brand and what the brand wants to do. It's about what kind of experience you could actually do, like that will engage people to actually get to the booth and like feel like that way. It doesn't necessarily have to tie back into the brand.
Awesome. All right. MK, future of events. What you got?
Use the data. There is so much out there, and I don't think people are asking the right questions. So whether that is about segmentation and identifying those top targets before you go into an event or after an event, for prioritizing outreach after, for creating a more tailored strategy for how you're rewarding existing clients or top prospects, or just really well done follow-up. The blast email of thanks for stopping by booth 402 at the blah, blah, blah expo is not cutting it. So really thinking about the data you're collecting as an exhibitor, as an event organizer, and using it in a way that shows you value the people you engaged with is huge.
Love it. Jenna, future of events. What you got?
Future of events. So it's funny because I'm actually going to be at EMS. So if anyone is going to be at EMS, stop by our booth, which has nothing to do with CI Group. It won't even say CI Group on the booth. So you'll see what kind of is there, but it's basically, it's not about us. It's about the brands themselves and what they want to have people feel, their employees, their attendees. It's what they want to feel, what they want to have them feel. And I think just like less about the brand, more about like, how does that interaction feel for them? And so I'm excited to be a part of, this community at this, exciting time where I can be able to provide very cool and different and retail kind of solutions to an industry that I think has been kind of missing that piece for a long time. So, yay.
Awesome. Eric,
All right.
sending it over your direction.
What struck me as really interesting about today's conversation, I think, is that both Jenna and Jon are coming at human engagement from two different angles, and it's about a little bit about empathy, right? It's about understanding who you're serving, who these people are, and trying to connect with them. And I'm excited by, people like Jenna and Jon in the industry who are trying to meet the audience, where they are. That balanced with, creating narratives that are supported by cool technology, which is kind of what we do at Gen City Labs. So it's this marrying of the human and the empathetic and fun, engaging tech that I think is going to transform a lot of the event experience in the future.
I will play right along with that and say that in this world of, increasingly proliferating technology and AI and all these crazy ways of creating content, that there is no substitute for in real life experiences. And those are with other human beings. Those are, exchanging value in unique ways. And all it does to me is impress upon us the need to get together and satisfy our lizard brain tribal needs of congregating in person with other real people as opposed to, focusing on technology. And on that note, I will thank you so much, Jenna Ovadia. Mr. Selig, we appreciate you. if you guys want to get in touch with either, please do follow them on LinkedIn. Great follows both. If you're at EMS next week, John, you have any anywhere you're going to be coming up? Any upcoming events, anything like that? We should be keeping an eye out for you.
No, not really. But I just want to give one last little bit of advice. Like when it comes to winning at trade shows, like so many exhibitors, they struggle to think outside the box, and I don't blame them. There's not much room in that 10 by 10.
Except.
There you go.
Except.
Way to close it out strong.
And one last thing. Look, guys, a poor musician blames their instruments. So if that last joke wasn't funny, just know that they were written with pens that I got at trade shows.
Ooh.
Zinger.
Way to go. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us on another Gen City Labs LinkedIn Live. If you are consuming live, we appreciate you. If you're consuming after the fact, thank you as well. We'll be back in 2 weeks with new and fun, exciting topics. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.